30 people.
Excellent.
40.
Bling.
50.
Wow.
Okay, Pam, I think you could go ahead and start.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I can't see you, but I know you're there. I'm Pam from University Bookstore. Welcome to the 13th year of Brad reading. I know it's pretty amazing. I can't believe it myself. The 13th year of Brad Craft reading A Christmas Memory for University Bookstore. Bradley, congratulations for making it through that long. Anyway, we love it. We love having Brad read this. It's just a wonderful, wonderful way of celebrating Christmas. I want to just welcome everybody. Remind people that we're open 12 to 4 every single day. Thank you for supporting University Bookstore during the pandemic. We sure do. We sure do appreciate your business and your love and your support. We can feel it. And so thank you. But I want to ask Brad one question before we get started here. And the question is, Bradley,
Yes.
what liquor would you pair with this reading?
Well, I suppose based on the book itself, we'd have to go with White Lightning corn liquor,
Okay,
a nice homemade whiskey.
lovely. Okay, everybody get your homemade whiskey out.
Yes, available at your local Appalachian outlet.
There you go. Well, here we go, Bradley. I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see your shining face. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for asking. All right, well, I guess it's me then, is it? So here we go. Oh, hand. All right, I hope you can all see me and hear me. If not, they'll have to correct that. So, I'm assuming you've all written a novel, repainted your bathrooms, learned how to make chocolate babka, taught Algebra 2, and made yards and yards of Belgian lace by now. I have not. Were I to make a list of all the things I might have done but haven't over the last 10 months, well, we'd be here longer than we need to be. Also, I would make myself feel bad, and there's been quite enough of that, thank you very much. Though it's already become a cliche, the truth is, I've actually debated wearing trousers today, pro and con. Something might fall off a shelf and startle me, might jump up. Wouldn't do to be seen representing the bookstore in my now more usual winter weight nightshirt and mules. Maybe if I was reading Dickens' Carol, but I'm not. The truth is, I haven't been up to much since, well, March. I did finally take up video games. Before anyone gets excited about this, I say video games, but all I mean, in my aging man way, is that I have now wasted irretrievable hours on my phone, playing things like Wordscape, level 2701 now, Mahjong that isn't anything like actual Mahjong, and other similar tile games that involve matching tomatoes with tomatoes and blue parrots with blue parrots, but not blue birds or green parrots. I still have absolutely no interest in shooting zombies or riding dragons or having an avatar. Though I do think if I absolutely had to choose just now, my avatar would wear laced shoes. Aspirational, I believe they call that. I've made every possible kind of eggs for my breakfast. Finally mastered poached eggs thanks to Amy Schumer's chef husband, Chris Fisher, on whom I now have a rather serious crush. Thanks, Chris. I've also had pie for breakfast, cold sausage and saltines for my supper, and I've made fettuccine Alfredo at 3 a.m. I've seriously considered the possibility that, when God sent manna from heaven to the wandering Israelites, it may well have been Ben & Jerry's pistachio ice cream. That may not be very sound theologically or historically, but I stand by my revelation. I'm still thinking about going for a walk. someday, soon. Even my reading, something some might say I've always done to excess, has proved rather haphazard since lockdown. My access to new books having been severely curtailed by my furlough, I found myself, not altogether unhappily, thrown back on my own library. You may just be able to tell from the scene behind me that I have hardly wanted for books. I have, however, found it difficult to sustain my interest in anything I've taken up to read. With the exception of a few long-term projects like rereading Gibbon's Decline and Fall, I have been a bit adrift. Absent my actual friends, customers, and co-workers, I find myself revisiting old books, paying calls. A letter from Dr. Johnson tells me he's much the same. I find Edmond Dantes still struggling, just as when I left him last. Quixote and Sancho are still nattering on. Victor Hugo, bless him, does love a digression on royal dwarves. Maybe it's all the unresolved true crime documentary series on the televisions that have done in my faith in discrete narratives. Who knows? And now the holidays are here, and I've frankly felt no better for that, despite this being my favorite time of year. Take heart. This world may yet right itself. Just recently, there have been signs. Frankly, it feels churlish to not be in a better state of mind or mood by now. And then, I got a phone call from my boss. Haven't seen the woman in months. Miss her. Miss you all. Would I read Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory again this year, somehow, from somewhere, some way? I never thought of saying no, though if ever there was a year when I might have done. So here, hopefully, we are, gathered round the glowing electronic hearth. Already dark, long since, outside, cold. Me no better than I might be, all things considered, and some of you, I should think, likewise. Now I think of it, seems a perfect time to read us all a story. And this story, come to that. And so, A Christmas Memory by Truman Capote. Imagine a morning in late November, a coming of winter morning more than 20 years ago. Consider the kitchen of a big, spreading old house in a country town. A great black stove is its main feature, but there is also a big round table and a fireplace with 2 rocking chairs placed in front of it. Just today, the fireplace commenced its seasonal roar. A woman with shorn white hair is standing at the kitchen window. She's wearing tennis shoes and a shapeless gray sweater over a summery calico dress. She is small and sprightly, like a bantam hen, but due to a long youthful illness, her shoulders are pitifully hunched. Her face is remarkable, not unlike Lincoln's, craggy like that, and tinted by sun and wind, but it is delicate too, finely boned, and her eyes are sherry-colored and timid. "Oh my," she exclaims, her breath smoking the window pane, "it's fruitcake weather." The person to whom she is speaking is myself. I am 7. She is 60-something. We are cousins, very distant ones, and we have lived together, well, as long as I can remember. Other people inhabit the house, relatives. And though they have power over us and frequently make us cry, we are not, on the whole, too much aware of them. We are each other's best friend. She calls me Buddy, in memory of a boy who was formerly her best friend. The other Buddy died in the 1880s when she was still a child. She is still a child. I knew it before I got out of bed, she says, turning away from the window with a purposeful excitement in her eyes. The courthouse bell sounded so cold and clear. There were no birds singing. They've gone to warmer country. Yes, indeed. Oh, Buddy, stop stuffing biscuit and fetch our buggy. Help me find my hat. We've 30 cakes to bake. It's always the same. A morning arrives in November, and my friend, as though officially inaugurating the Christmas time of year that exhilarates her imagination and fuels the blaze in her heart, announces, "It's fruitcake weather. Fetch our buggy. Help me find my hat." The hat is found. A straw cartwheel corsaged with velvet roses out of doors has faded. It once belonged to a more fashionable relative. Together we guide our buggy, a dilapidated baby carriage, out to the garden and into a grove of pecan trees. The buggy is mine. That is, it was bought for me when I was born. It is made of wicker, rather unraveled, and the wheels wobble like a drunkard's legs. But it is a faithful object. Springtimes, we take it to the woods and fill it with flowers, herbs, wild fern for our porch pots. In the summer, we pile it with picnic paraphernalia and sugarcane fishing poles and roll it down to the edge of a creek. It has its winter uses too, as a truck for hauling firewood from the yard to the kitchen, as a warm bed for Queenie, our tough little orange and white rat terrier, who has survived distemper and 2 rattlesnake bites. Queenie is trotting beside it now. 3 hours later, we are back in the kitchen, hulling a heaping buggy load of windfall pecans. Our backs hurt from gathering them, how hard they were to find, the main crop having been shaken off the trees and sold by the orchard's owners, who are not us, among the concealing leaves, the frosted, deceiving grass. Crackle, a cheery crunch, scraps of miniature thunder sound as the shells collapse, and the golden mound of sweet, oily, ivory meat mounts in the milk glass bowl. Queenie begs a taste, and now and again my friend sneaks her a mite, though insisting we deprive ourselves. We mustn't, Buddy. If we start, we won't stop. And there's scarcely enough as there is for 30 cakes. The kitchen is growing dark. Dusk turns the window into a mirror. Our reflections mingle with the rising moon as we work by the fireside in the firelight. At last, when the moon is quite high, we toss the final hull into the fire and with joined sighs, watch it catch flame. The buggy is empty. The bowl is brim full. We eat our supper, cold biscuits, bacon, blackberry jam, and discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow, the kind of work I like best begins, buying. Cherries and citron, ginger and vanilla and canned Hawaiian pineapple, rinds and raisins and walnuts and whiskey and oh, so much flour, butter, so many eggs, spices, flavorings. Why, we'll need a pony to pull the buggy home. But before these purchases can be made, there is the question of money. Neither of us has any. Except for skinflint sums, persons in the house occasionally provide, a dime is considered very big money, or what we can earn ourselves from various activities, holding rummage sales, selling buckets of hand-picked blackberries, jars of homemade jam and apple jelly and peach preserves, rounding up flowers for funerals and weddings. Once, we won 79th prize, $5, in a national football contest. Not that we know a fool thing about football. It's just that we enter any contest we hear about. At the moment, our hopes are centered on the $50,000 grand prize being offered to name a new brand of coffee. we suggested AM, and after some hesitation, for my friend thought it perhaps sacrilegious, the slogan AM, Amen. To tell the truth, our only really profitable enterprise was the Fun and Freak Museum we conducted in a backyard woodshed 2 summers ago. The Fun was a stereopticon with slide views of Washington and New York, lent us by a relative who had been to those places. She was furious when she discovered why we borrowed it. The Freak was a 3-legged bitty chicken hatched by one of our own hens. Everybody hereabouts wanted to see that bitty. We charged grown-ups a nickel, kids 2 cents, and took in a good $20 before the museum shut down due to the decease of the main attraction. But one way and another, we do each year accumulate Christmas savings, a fruitcake fund. These monies we keep hidden in an ancient bead purse, under a loose board, under the floor, under a chamber pot, under my friend's bed. The purse is seldom removed from this safe location except to make a deposit, or, as happens every Saturday, a withdrawal. For on Saturdays, I am allowed 10 cents to go to the picture show. My friend has never been to a picture show, nor does she intend to. I'd rather hear you tell a story, buddy. That way I can imagine it more. Besides, a person my age shouldn't squander their eyes. When the Lord comes, let me see him clear. In addition to never having seen a movie, she has never eaten in a restaurant, traveled more than 5 miles from home, received or sent a telegram, read anything except funny papers in the Bible, worn cosmetics, cursed, wished someone harm, told a lie on purpose, let a hungry dog go hungry. Here are a few things she has done, does do. Killed with a hoe the biggest rattlesnake ever seen in this county, 16 rattles. Dipped snuff, secretly. Tame hummingbirds, just try it, till they balance on her finger. Tell ghost stories, we both believe in ghosts. So tingling they chill you in July. Talk to herself, take walks in the rain, grow the prettiest japonicas in town. Know the recipe for every sort of old-time Indian cure, including a magical wart remover. Now, with supper finished, we retire to the room in a faraway part of the house where my friend sleeps, in a scrap quilt-covered iron bed painted rose pink, her favorite color. Silently, wallowing in the pleasures of conspiracy, we take the bead purse from its secret place and spill its contents on the scrap quilt. Dollar bills tightly rolled and green as May buds. Somber 50-cent pieces, heavy enough to weight a dead man's eyes. Lovely dimes, the liveliest coins, the one that really jingles. Nickels and quarters, worn smooth as creek pebbles, but mostly a hateful heap of bitter-odored pennies. Last summer, others in the house contracted to pay us a penny for every 25 flies we killed. Oh, the carnage of August, the flies that flew to heaven. Yet, it was not work in which we took pride. And, as we sit counting pennies, it is as though we were back tabulating dead flies. Neither of us has a head for figures. We count slowly, lose track, start again. According to her calculations, we have $12.73. According to mine, exactly $13. I do hope you're wrong, buddy. We can't mess around with 13. The cakes will fall, or put somebody in the cemetery. Why, I wouldn't dream of getting out of bed on the 13th. This is true. She always spends 13ths in bed. So, to be on the safe side, we subtract a penny and toss it out the window. Of the ingredients that go into our fruitcakes, whiskey is the most expensive, as well as the hardest to obtain. State law forbids its sale. But everyone knows you can buy a bottle from Mr. Ha Ha Jones. And the next day, having completed our more prosaic shopping, we set out for Mr. Ha Ha's business address, a sinful, to quote public opinion, fish fry and dancing cafe down by the river. We've been there before and on the same errand, but in previous years our dealings have been with Ha Ha's wife, an iodine dark Indian woman with brassy peroxided hair and a dead, tired disposition. Actually, we've never laid eyes on her husband, though we've heard that he's an Indian too, a giant with razor scars across his cheeks. They call him Ha Ha because he's so gloomy, a man who never laughs. As we approach his cafe, a large log cabin festooned inside and out with chains of garish, gay, naked light bulbs, and standing by the river's muddy edge, under the shade of river trees where moss drifts through the branches like gray mist, our steps slow down. Even Queenie stops prancing and sticks close by. People have been murdered in Ha Ha's cafe, cut to pieces, hit on the head. There's a case coming up in court next month. Naturally, these goings-on happen at night, when the colored lights cast crazy patterns and the Victrola wails. In the daytime, Ha Ha's is shabby and deserted. I knock at the door. Queenie barks. My friend calls, "Mrs. Ha Ha? Ma'am? Anyone to home?" Footsteps. The door opens, our hearts overturn. It's Mr. Ha Ha Jones himself, and he is a giant, and he does have scars. He doesn't smile. No. He glowers at us through Satan-tilted eyes and demands to know what you want with Ha Ha. For a moment, we're too paralyzed to tell. Presently, my friend half finds her voice, a whispery voice at best. "If you please, Mr. Ha Ha, we'd like a quart of your finest whiskey." His eyes tilt more. Would you believe it? Ha Ha is smiling, laughing too. "Which one of you is a drinking man?" "It's for making fruit cakes, Mr. Ha Ha." "Cooking." This sobers him. He frowns. "That's no way to waste good whiskey." Nevertheless, he retreats into the shadowed cafe, and seconds later appears carrying a bottle of daisy yellow, unlabeled liquor. He demonstrates its sparkle in the sunlight and says, $2. We pay him with nickels and dimes and pennies. Suddenly, as he jangles the coins in his hand like a fistful of dice, his face softens. "Tell you what," he proposes, pouring the money back into our bead purse. "Just send me one of them fruitcakes instead." "Well," my friend remarks on our way home, "there's a lovely man. We'll put an extra cup of raisins in his cake." The black stove, stoked with coal and firewood, glows like a lighted pumpkin. Egg beaters whirl, spoons spin round in bowls of butter and sugar. Vanilla sweetens the air, ginger spices it. Melting, nose-tingling odors saturate the kitchen, suffuse the house, drift out to the world on puffs of chimney smoke. In 4 days, our work is done. 31 cakes, dampened with whiskey, bask on windowsills and shelves. Who are they for? Friends. Not necessarily neighbor friends. Indeed, a larger share is intended for persons we've met maybe once, perhaps not at all. People who've struck our fancy, like President Roosevelt, like the Reverend and Mrs. J.C. Lucy, Baptist missionaries to Borneo who lectured here last winter, or the little knife grinder who comes through town twice a year, or Abner Packer, the driver of the 6 o'clock bus from Mobile, who exchanges waves with us every day as he passes in a dust cloud whoosh. Or the young Wistons, a California couple whose car one afternoon broke down outside the house and who spent a pleasant hour chattering with us on the porch. Young Mr. Wiston snapped our picture, the only one we've ever had taken. This is that picture. It is because my friend is shy with everyone except strangers that these strangers and merest acquaintance seem to us our truest friends. I think yes. Also, the scrapbooks we keep of thank yous on White House stationery, time-to-time communication from California and Borneo, the knife grinder's penny postcards, make us feel connected to eventful worlds beyond the kitchen with its view of a sky that stops. Now a nude December fig branch grates against the window. The kitchen is empty. The cakes are gone. Yesterday we carted the last of them to the post office, where the cost of stamps turned our purse inside out. We're broke. That rather depresses me, but my friend insists on celebrating with 2 inches of whiskey left in Ha-Ha's bottle. Queenie has a spoonful in a bowl of coffee. She likes her coffee chicory flavored and strong. The rest we divide between a pair of jelly glasses. We're both quite awed at the prospect of drinking straight whiskey. The taste of it brings screwed up expressions and sour shudders. But by and by, we begin to sing. The 2 of us singing different songs simultaneously. I don't know the words to mine, just come on along to the Darktown Strutters Ball. But I can dance. That's what I mean to be, a tap dancer in the movies. My dancing shadow rollicks on the walls. Our voices rock the chinaware. We giggle as if unseen hands were tickling us. Queenie rolls on her back. Her paws plow the air. Something like a grin stretches her black lips. Inside myself, I feel warm and sparky as those crumbling logs, carefree as the wind in the chimney. My friend waltzes round the stove, the hem of her poor calico skirt pinched between her fingers as though it were a party dress. Show me the way to go home, she sings, her tennis shoes squeaking on the floor. Show me the way to go home. Enter 2 relatives, very angry, potent with eyes that scold, tongues that scald. Listen to what they have to say, the words tumbling together in a wrathful tune. A child of 7, whiskey on his breath. Are you out of your mind? Feeding a child of 7 must be a loony. Road to ruination. Remember Cousin Kate, Uncle Charlie, Uncle Charlie's brother-in-law? Shame, scandal, humiliation. Kneel, pray, beg the Lord. Queenie sneaks under the stove. My friend gazes at her shoes. Her chin quivers. She lifts her skirt and blows her nose and runs to her room. Long after the town has gone to sleep, the house is silent except for the chimings of the clock and the sputter of fading fires. She is weeping into a pillow already as wet as a widow's handkerchief. Don't cry, I say, sitting at the bottom of her bed and shivering despite my flannel nightgown that smells of last winter's cough syrup. Don't cry. I beg, teasing her toes, tickling her feet. You're too old for that. It's because, she hiccups, I am too old. Old and funny. Not funny. Fun. More fun than anybody. Listen, if you don't stop crying, you'll be so tired tomorrow, we can't go cut a tree. She straightens up. Queenie jumps on the bed, where Queenie is not allowed, to lick her cheeks. I know where we'll find really pretty trees, buddy. And holly, too, with berries big as your eyes. It's way off in the woods, farther than we've ever been. Papa used to bring us Christmas trees from there, carry them on his shoulder. That's 50 years ago. Well, now I can't wait for morning. Morning. Frozen rime lusters the grass. The sun, round as an orange and orange as hot weather moons, balances on the horizon, burnishes the silvered winter woods. A wild turkey calls. A renegade hog grunts in the undergrowth. Soon, by the edge of knee-deep, rapid-running water, we have to abandon the buggy. Queenie wades the stream first, paddles across barking complaints at the swiftness of the current, the pneumonia-making coldness of it. We follow, holding our shoes and equipment, a hatchet, a burlap sack, above our heads. A mile more of chastening thorns, burrs and briars that catch at our clothes, of rusty pine needles brilliant with gaudy fungus and molted feathers. Here, there, a flash, a flutter, an ecstasy of shrilling reminds us that not all the birds have flown south. Always the path unwinds through lebony sun pools and pitch-black vine tunnels. Another creek to cross, a disturbed armada of speckled trout froths the water round us, and frogs the size of plates practice belly flops. Beaver workmen are building a dam. On the farther shore, Queenie shakes herself and trembles. My friend shivers too, not with cold, but enthusiasm. One of her hat's ragged roses sheds a petal as she lifts her head and inhales the pine-heavy air. We're almost there. Can you smell it, buddy? She says, as though we were approaching an ocean. And, indeed, it is a kind of ocean. Scented acres of holiday trees, prickly-leaved holly, red berries shiny as Chinese bells. Black crows swoop upon them screaming. Having stuffed our burlap sacks with enough greenery and crimson to garland a dozen windows, we set about choosing a tree. It should be, muses my friend, twice as tall as a boy, so a boy can't steal the star. The one we pick is twice as tall as me. A brave, handsome brute that survives 30 hatchet strokes before it keels with a creaking, rending cry. Lugging it like a kill, we commence the long trek out. Every few yards, we abandon the struggle, sit down, and pant. But we have the strength of triumphant huntsmen. That and the tree's virile, icy perfume revive us, goad us on. Many compliments accompany our sunset return along the red clay road to town. But my friend is sly and non-committal when passers-by praise the treasure perched in our buggy. What a fine tree, and where did it come from? Yonder ways, she murmurs vaguely. Once, a car stops, and the rich mill owner's lazy wife leans out and whines, "Give you 2 bits cash for that old tray." Ordinarily, my friend is afraid of saying no, but on this occasion, she promptly shakes her head. We wouldn't take $1. The mill owner's wife persists. $1 my foot, 50 cents. That's my last offer. Goodness, woman, you can get another one. In answer, my friend gently reflects, I doubt it. There's never two of anything. Home. Queenie slumps by the fire and sleeps till tomorrow, snoring loud as a human. A trunk in the attic contains a shoebox of ermine tails off the opera cape of a curious lady who once rented a room in the house. Coils of frazzled tinsel gone gold with age. One silver star. A brief rope of dilapidated, undoubtedly dangerous, candy-like light bulbs. Excellent decorations as far as they go, which isn't far enough. My friend wants our tree to blaze like a Baptist window, droop with weighty snows of ornament. But we can't afford the made-in-Japan splendors of the 5 and dime. So we do what we've always done. Sit for days at the kitchen table with scissors and crayons and stacks of colored paper. I make sketches and my friend cuts them out. Lots of cats. Fish too, because they're easy to draw. Some apples, some watermelons. A few winged angels devised from saved up sheets of Hershey bar tinfoil. We use safety pins to attach these creations to the tree. As a final touch, we sprinkle the branches with shredded cotton, picked in August for this purpose. My friend, surveying the effect, claps her hands together. Now, honest, buddy, doesn't it look good enough to eat? Queenie tries to eat an angel. After weaving and ribboning holly wreaths for all the front windows, our next project is the fashioning of family gifts. Tie-dye scarves for the ladies. For the men, a home-brewed lemon and licorice and aspirin syrup to be taken at the first symptoms of a cold and after hunting. But when it comes time for making each other's gift, my friend and I separate to work secretly. I would like to buy her a pearl-handled knife, a radio, a whole pound of chocolate-covered cherries. We tasted some once, and she always swears, I could live on them, buddy. Lord, yes, I could, and that's not taking his name in vain. Instead, I am building her a kite. She would like to give me a bicycle. She said so on several million occasions. If only I could, buddy. It's bad enough in life to do without something you want. But confound it, what gets my goat is not being able to give somebody something you want them to have. Only one of these days I will, buddy. Locate you a bike. Don't ask how. Steal it, maybe. Instead, I'm fairly certain she is building me a kite. The same as last year and the year before. The year before that, we exchanged slingshots, all of which is fine by me, for we are champion kite flyers who study the wind like sailors. My friend, more accomplished than I, can get a kite aloft when there isn't enough breeze to carry clouds. Christmas Eve afternoon, we scrape together a nickel and go to the butcher's to buy Queenie's traditional gift, a good gnawable bone. The bone, wrapped in funny paper, is placed high in the tree near the silver star. Queenie knows it's there. She squats at the foot of the tree, staring up in a trance of greed. When bedtime arrives, she refuses to budge. Her excitement is equaled by my own. I kick the covers and turn my pillow as though it were a scorching summer's night. Somewhere a rooster crows, falsely, for the sun is still on the other side of the world. Buddy, are you awake? It is my friend, calling from her room, which is next to mine, and an instant later, she is sitting on my bed holding a candle. Well, I can't sleep a hoot, she declares. My mind is jumping like a jackrabbit. Buddy, do you think Mrs. Roosevelt will serve our cake at dinner? We huddle in the bed, and she squeezes my hand. I love you. Seems like your hand used to be so much smaller. I guess I hate to see you grow up. When you're grown up, will we still be friends? I say always. I feel so bad, buddy. I wanted so bad to give you a bike. I tried to sell my cameo Papa gave me. Buddy. She hesitates as though embarrassed. I made you another kite. Then I confess that I made her one too, and we laugh. The candle burns too short to hold. Out it goes, exposing the starlight. The stars spinning at the window like a visible caroling that slowly, slowly daybreak silences. Possibly we doze. But the beginnings of dawn splash us like cold water. We're up wide-eyed and wandering while we wait for the others to waken. Quite deliberately, my friend drops a kettle on the kitchen floor. I tap dance in front of closed doors. One by one, the household emerges, looking as though they'd like to kill us both, but it's Christmas, so they can't. First, a gorgeous breakfast. Just everything you can imagine, from flapjacks and fried squirrel to hominy grits and honey in the comb, which puts everyone in a good humor except my friend and me. Frankly, we're so impatient to get at the presents we can't eat a mouthful. Well, I'm disappointed. Who wouldn't be? With socks, a Sunday school shirt, some handkerchiefs, a hand-me-down sweater, and a year's subscription to a religious magazine for children, The Little Shepherd. It makes me boil, it really does. My friend has better haul. A sack of satsumas, that's her best present. She is proudest, however, of a white wool shawl knitted by her married sister. But she says her favorite gift is the kite I built her. And it is very beautiful, though not as beautiful as the one she made me, which is blue and scattered with golden green good conduct stars. Moreover, my name is painted on it, Buddy. Buddy, the wind is blowing. The wind is blowing. And nothing will do till we've run to a pasture below the house where Queenie has scooted to bury her bone, and where, a winter hence, Queenie will be buried too. There, plunging through the healthy waist-high grass, we unreel our kites, feel them twitching at the string like skyfish as they swim into the wind. Satisfied, sun-warmed, we sprawl in the grass and peel satsumas and watch our kites cavort. Soon, I forget the socks and hand-me-down sweater. I'm as happy as if we'd already won the $50,000 grand prize in that coffee naming contest. My, how foolish I am, my friend cries, suddenly alert like a woman remembering too late she has biscuits in the oven. You know what I've always thought? She asks in a tone of discovery, and not smiling at me, but a point beyond. I've always thought a body would have to be sick and dying before they saw the Lord. And I imagined that when he came, it would be like looking at the Baptist window, pretty as colored glass with the sun pouring through. Such a shine, you don't know it's getting dark. And it's been a comfort to think of that shine taking away all the spooky feeling. But I'll wager it never happens. I'll wager at the very end, a body realizes the Lord has already shown himself, that things as they are Her hand circles in a gesture that gathers clouds and kites and grass and Queenie pawing earth over her bone. Just what they've always seen was seeing him. As for me, I could leave the world with today in my eyes. This is our last Christmas together. Life separates us. Those who know best decide that I belong in a military school. And so follows a miserable succession of bugle-blowing prisons, grim reveille-ridden summer camps. I have a new home too, but it doesn't count. Home is where my friend is, and there I never go. And there she remains, puttering around the kitchen, alone with Queenie, then alone. Buddy, dear, she writes in her wild, hard-to-read script. Yesterday, Jim Macy's horse kicked Queenie bad. Be thankful she didn't feel much. I wrapped her in a fine linen sheet and rode her in the buggy down to Simpson's pasture where she can be with all her bones. For a few Novembers, she continues to bake her fruitcakes single-handed. Not as many, but some. And of course, she always sends me the best of the batch. Also, in every letter, she encloses a dime, wadded in toilet paper. See a picture show and write me the story. But gradually, in her letters, she tends to confuse me with her other friend, the buddy who died in the 1880s. More and more 13ths are not the only days she stays in bed. A morning arrives in November, a leafless, birdless coming of winter morning, when she cannot rouse herself to exclaim, "Oh my, it's fruitcake weather." And when that happens, I know it. A message saying so merely confirms a piece of news some secret vein had already received, severing from me an irreplaceable part of myself, letting it loose like a kite on a broken string. That is why, walking across a school campus on this particular December morning, I keep searching the sky, as if I expected to see, rather like hearts, a lost pair of kites hurrying toward heaven. Now, sort of close out our evening together, I thought I might read a little thing of my own. It's very slight. It's called Gnawed and Mumbled. There should be a rule about how they load a church van. There isn't, but there should be. In my time, I crawled into and out of many a one, and it never went well. Generally, the people with the greatest flexibility and the smallest bladders tend to rush to the back and, as the load increases, stack and fold themselves into the available space as best they can in order to accommodate the slower adults to follow. Heat and hilarity ensues, though genuine discomfort soon follows. Now, this seems only polite, but it proves impractical as soon as it comes to unloading, since upon arrival wherever, the oldest and slowest, being the last loaded in, are then called to be the first out, with usually only the driver to help see them safely to the ground. All that pent-up energy buzzing and bawling behind, and nowhere to go until the substantial person of Mrs. Whomever can be unwedged from a bucket seat and lowered less than gracefully down, while the bum knee of Mr. Bucket needs straightened gently before he can be dislodged from the space between the driver's seat and gearbox. And all the while, like a loaded cannon, kids trying to rush the exit. Can't you wait a minute? Wait, I say, damn you. Oh, not you, Mrs. Whatsit, my apologies. This is a mere van, you understand. Nothing so grand as a bus. Mightn't be from an actual church, or it might be, but borrowed. Might be a delivery van of some sort, or a panel truck, come to that, commandeered into temporary service for the occasion, but nothing so roomy or regulated as a bus. I sat many times on an ice cream freezer, or on the open bed of a pickup truck in the winter wind, and more than once sat in the open stairwell of a moving vehicle. Like the conveyance, the contents varied according to the occasion, but generally there were one or two functioning adults, organizers, and acting chaperones. A driver, not altogether happy and probably scared out of his or her wits, and then entirely too many Cub Scouts or members young and old of the Grange or 4-H or some other country fraternal organization, stacked less like cordwood than a load of noisy, wet gravel, every icy road and or sharp turn eliciting a loud and unhelpful whoa. Unruly bunch. Cheerful, but not helpful, all smelling of damp wool and farm boots. Rarely uncorked scent bottles and fresh baking, and not a drop of drink anywhere to take the edge off the enterprise. I speak just here of country carolers, not the kind in a proper chorus, not so much as rehearsed, circa somewhere between, say, 1968 and 1976, my best remembered childhood. These would not be singers, necessarily, mind, and not so much organized as randomly gathered. That would be the point. I'm put in mind of this when I finally considered hauling out my Christmas music and then didn't. 2 big moving boxes of the stuff just sitting in my garage gathering dust the year round until normally, someday soon after Thanksgiving, when I drag the lot of it upstairs, spread jewel boxes all over the floor, and fire up our now much neglected stereo system. But this year, I certainly had the time. The Lord knows I love the stuff, the season, the bells, the carols, the songs, the choirs, the kitsch, the lot. But then I found even as late as this week, Christmas all but just around the corner, I could not quite rise to the occasion. Wasn't in me. Where the happy off-key caroler of Western Pennsylvania childhood? The owner of one scant young nose, gnawed and mumbled by the hungry cold as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with a Christmas carol. But at the first sound of "God bless you, merry gentlemen, may nothing you dismay," Scrooge seized the ruler with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror, leaving the keyhole to the fog and even more congenial frost. Stave 1, Marley's Ghost, roughly a dozen pages in that. Oh dear, am I Scrooge now? Short of the 13 surviving minutes of Scrooge or Marley's Ghost, the first extant film adaptation from 1913, every version, stage and screen, of the immortal Dickens story that I've ever seen, and I swear I've seen them all, has unsurprisingly featured carolers at whom the old Weezer might sneer. Yet another of the Dickensian reinventions of Christmas, that tight quartet in full Victorian, harmonizing heartily on the cobbles. Easiest thing in the world to establish period, place, time, antagonists, and an appropriately festive atmosphere, often as not right under the credits or first across the stage. Enter caroling. I know it's not to everyone's taste. There are those who can't abide so much as the tinkling of jingle bells. Fellow retail workers ruined in their seasonal joy by the too oft-repeated loop of saccharine inanities. Persons of refined opinion who shiver not in anticipation, but disdain at the first hint of Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker. I sympathize with, but have never shared their pain. It isn't all Luciano Pavarotti's Gesù Bambino and cathedral choir soloists calling, "Oh, oh," for the wings of a dove. Hell, it's not even necessarily Miss Brenda Lee. As someone who has amassed a considerable collection of Christmas recordings, I feel fully qualified to say that not all of it is anywhere near good, and that some of it is frankly dreadful. Further, I will admit to taking a perverse pleasure in not a few records, the value of which is largely in their unself-conscious awfulness. Not the dreaded novelty numbers, I mean, so much as the full-throated sopranos mit orchestriert, assailing a simple tune as if it were an aria from Norma, and or the various attempts by well-meaning and or greedy producers to bring a bit of contemporary pizzazz to old chestnuts with misjudged arrangements borrowed from 80s exercise videos or gangster rap. Shivers. Good shivers, you understand, but in a bad way. But I think what I most want just now and cannot have is something like the sound of the caroling I remember being carried from nursing home to shut-ins and on to isolated farms in those steaming vans of my youth. Don't misunderstand me when I tell you it was not good. We sang, as I remember, from mimeographed pages, often impossible to read in dim porch light, or limply wet and runny in a snowstorm. We sang, if you can call it that, crowded in the front of community rooms and fidgeting in drafty halls, to audiences often smaller than the crowd from the van. Our put-upon listeners were expected, not unreasonably, I think, to appreciate our enthusiasm and the effort made, rather than the resulting noise. There were always good, natural singers among us, adults and children, but even their best could not always rise above. I remember there were always ladies, seldom but occasionally gentlemen, who would try, bless their memories, to get or keep us on pitch and in tune, and some brave soul would even try to keep time for us when there wasn't an upright piano to follow. It all in the end usually came to almost nothing very nice, but at least we were cute, as I remember us then, and it was over soon enough. I do remember one such performance in particular, not because of anything we did, but for a moment after. Might have been at the Oddfellows' home, or somewhere like. Sad. Sometimes frightening places for the smallest children, nursing homes. Not then so sad as they seem now, for reasons we were then blessed to never have anticipated. But sad nonetheless. Unhappy, mostly, as I remember them, with crepe paper bells and sad strings of saggy tinsel. The inmates often decked in small tokens of better memories. Christmas brooches, and garlands draped like scarves, perhaps a Santa hat on some stray staffer. The moment I mean to recall came after we had finished our program and had gone at our minder's insistence out among the occupants to offer season's greetings individually, before we fell to on the cookie tables and watery punch. It wasn't me who heard her first, nor do I know who or what may have prompted her. But somewhere in that painfully bright recreation and assembly room, one ancient lady decided to sing. Seemingly unbidden by anyone or anything but memory, without accompaniment or the slightest encouragement, perhaps not even altogether aware of what she was doing, a very old lady sang. I wish I could tell you that her voice was still thrilling and strong. It wasn't. I wish I could remember what language she sang in, or that someone present could later identify the song. It wasn't English, I know. Might have been German, Italian, Polish. Somebody would have said that much at least, but I do not remember. All I remember is the quiet. I remember there the sudden hush, and that all of us, even the evil-minded teenagers, stopped what we were doing, stood still, and listened. The carol she sang, if carol it was, couldn't have lasted more than a very few minutes, but it had the shape of something beautiful still, something familiar even in its foreign language, something sacred. It rose and fell to nearly a whisper. It broke going up and shook when it had ascended, and it was everything but pretty or professionally done. And while it lasted, the little time it did, it was beautiful. It was Christmas. Hers as she remembered it, if she remembered nothing else. And wherever it came from, however she came to be there in a small country place in Pennsylvania, among people who barely spoke the little English we used, it was a gift. And when she'd done, when what she'd done trailed away to nothing, we did not applaud or shout or make much of her, really. As I remember it, some adults made a point of going to wish her well. I saw her then, as some attendant wheeled her back, no doubt, to her bed. She was no more awake or aware of us than a sleepy baby. I cannot say I remember her face, let alone her name if I ever heard it. When she'd gone, we went back to our happy buzz, now somewhat subdued, and soon after it was back to the van. I believe we were done for the night. Going home, people said nice things about what they'd heard. Somebody probably picked a fight when somebody else shifted and crushed a toe or kicked an elbow away. Come the first hard turn, we all shouted, "Whoa!" and were told yet again to shut the hell up. It was hard enough trying to see in such weather, hard enough not to kill us all on such roads. Right this minute, that's the carol I want to hear. I wish I knew what it was. That's the music for this moment. And all I can do is tell you to listen to it, however it comes to you now, in the quiet hereafter. Come the stille Nacht, heilige Nacht. And wish us all happy holidays, better days hereafter, and a very good night. Thank you all. See you next year.